Salvatore Marici's poetry has appeared or forthcoming in Toasted Cheese, Spillway, Prairie Gold, an anthology of the American Heartland, of Burgers and Barrooms, a Main Street rag anthology, Poetry Quarterly, and many more. In 2010, Marici was the Midwest Writing Center Poet in Resident. He is the contest director for the Midwest Writing Center's Great River Writing Retreat Contest and is on the center's program committee. He has 3 books: Mortals, Nature, and Their Spirits, chapbook, Swish, Swirl, and Sniff, and Fermentations, all Ice Cube Press. Marici served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala as a natural resources specialist, and he is a civil servant retiree as an agronomist. He is learning to maneuver a 17-foot, 10-inch kayak in the mangroves and the Gulf. And now I'm going to turn it over to Sal for our presentation of our local author.
First, I want to thank you all for attending wherever you are. I'm hoping and assuming that you are aware you have power, because I know that at least on the west coast, I talked to John, my friend, and he said that it didn't have power for like 6 days because of the flooding and landslides. I have no idea what's going on the East Coast with the snowstorm there. I don't see too many people from the East Coast. And so I just hope everybody's safe and you're safe and warm. So that's the most important thing right now. I want to thank Stephanie from the Davenport Library. Stephanie, raise your hand again. Everybody knows you. And for helping getting this set up, and we really worked together to get this thing going. So thank you again, Stephanie. I also want to thank Kathy. Kathy, want to raise your hand? Are you there? For helping me set up my, I guess, recording studio, which is a kitchen table with the shutters back there, and she helped me set the lights up and everything. So I tried this once before for a poetry festival, and it did not get accepted because my recording, I was making too much noise turning around. They didn't say anything about the poetry, I just didn't like the presentation. So I want to thank Kathy for that. Don't worry, I'm not going to read for a whole hour. And you can see some sigh reliefs there. It's about 30 minutes of poetry, guaranteed, fun for all. And afterwards, I will answer questions, and we could talk about hopefully how to keep in touch and so forth. I will be reading from my 3 books, as Stephanie said. Mortals, Nature, and Their Spirits, which is my first book. My second book, Luigi Dell'Acquisto. No, I'm sorry, that's the guy on the cover. It's Luigi. You'll hear a lot more about him soon. Swish Swirl Sniff. Try to say that really fast after a couple drinks. Fermentations, and my upcoming book, which should be out in September. We have a working title, but it's not been agreed upon, so I won't bring it out yet to talk about it. But they're all Ice Cube Press poetry, or books from Ice Cube Press. It's a great publisher, micro publisher, been around for 30 years, and they're in Iowa City. I would strongly recommend to go to icecubpress.com, not just going to look at my books and the praises, but to see some other great books there. Okay, I guess as Keith Richards says, what he does is 2 songs in the Rolling Stone concert. Let's cut the crap and get started. The first poem, Invitation to Enter. Epigraph. The gate of hell, influenced by Dante's Inferno. It's a Rodin sculpture that stands at 6 meters high, 4 meters wide, and 1 meter deep. It contains 180 figures. Invitation to enter. Handmade nails with rusted heads nailed her bronze face on an oak door. Tangled grapevines dangle from her head. She speaks 400 years of olive, lemon groves grow on hillsides. Wine pours from barrels in people's homes. Women bathe under Sicily sun. These tales she has seen, done, lure my hand to lift the ring beneath her chin, worn to fit my palm like grabs of others. But when the sea brings storms, I hear from her lips cries of tormented souls, like those Rodin carved on the gate of hell. Their tears scald my hand. Handle crashes against strike plate. Luigi Dell'Acquisto. This is the longest poem in the book. It's the only poem that has end rhyming. And there's a few things you need to know. Catalafamo is the name of a mountain in Sicily. Solanto is the name of a Roman ruin on top of that mountain. Santa Flavia is the name of a town in Sicily. And Luigi Dell'Acquisto is this man here, my great uncle Luigi Dell'Acquisto. And I'm not going to say anymore because the poem has everything else we need to know about him. Luigi Dell'Acquisto. Luigi Dell'Acquisto never wants to leave Santa Flavia, Sicily. Never has reasons to, except to become a soldier reluctantly. Luigi Dell'Acquisto and his brother Salvatore at night throw nets into the ocean, then eat seafood in their homes on the shore, sell the rest to those who do not fish the ocean. Luigi and Salvatore Dell'Acquisto walk to their lemon orchard on a mountain called Catalafamo below Solanto, where they see the blue sky and sea join. Luigi and Salvatore Dell'Acquisto, after the ocean sought and wind cracked their hands, they work the sloping ground of Catalafamo. The soil soothes their hands. Luigi Dell'Acquisto, under his brown turtleneck, has an amplifier like a pocket radio, A wire runs down his neck. Luigi Dell'Acquisto shakes his clasped hands, chest high, gives a content sigh when spoken to, competing with the feedback cry. Luigi Dell'Acquisto, with no teeth, speaks Sicilian, like the language of Solanto, soon to be dead like Latin. Luigi and Salvatore Dell'Acquisto no longer set sail. They spend more time on Catalafamo, pruning trees and cultivating the soil. Luigi Dell'Acquisto, every morning bicyclist, on new paved roads to Catalafamo. He stewards the land on a steep angle. Luigi Dell'Acquisto sleeps in the orchard shed on rainy days, stands at a stone well with a deep hole. His hands turn its pulley on dry days. Luigi Dell'Acquisto, when ailing rest, eat lemons he grew on Catalafamo, commercial medicines he never digest. Luigi Dell'Acquisto has a sack of lemons on his hunchback while pedaling, does not hear a truck at a bend on Catalafamo. He died in November 2004 after 97 years of living. Needless to say, he was my hero. I met him about 3 times, and it was an honor to meet him and have a spaghetti dinner with him and some fish with him and so forth. Okay, I really thought I should read a poem about the virus. It is so much in us. I haven't written that many poems, only about 3. But I picked this poem because it has the virus, it has the global warming, and refugees. Happy poem. Permanence. Epigraph. The coronavirus pandemic is one of nature's responses to humans ignoring the current ecological crisis. Pope Francis. Permanence. Bites. Feces, monkeys flip. Breathe, butchered meat. Infectious agents jump species. Codes mutate billion times over into a protein sequence fools to manufacture. New agents attach, blow holes in membranes of adjacent cells, penetrate, freaks host immune systems, trigger destructions of beings like the people chase from shorelines. Rising water floods their homes, forces them to move where rivers, oceans won't reach. Refugees make settlements crowded without running water, where viruses live in plants, monkeys, anything alive. Now we're going to continue with Biology 100 about amoebas, and it's titled Amoeba's Ego. I love myself so much, I will not have sex with another. My greatness wants more of me, so I cut myself in half. And let's see now, prudence. I wrote this poem for the Midwest Writing Center contest, Iron Pen contest, which you write a poem, give you probably got 24 hours to write a poem. And it's coming up in February. If you're interested, check out the website. So anyway, here it is. Prudence. Epigraph. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Lennon McCarthy. You will not leave your house on a snowy day and slip on ice, nor walk on the grass because your big toe might slip and break in a mole hole, nor squish mud with your bare feet. Give the gunk a chance to turn your ankle. You might as well hang out with Palermo's wealthy in the catacombs beneath the Capuchin monastery with a boned neck, hands, feet. All of your smiling teeth in your skull, like the others display inside a niche in the wall, draped in their best suits, clergy robes. As you drink cappuccino with the elite woman in dresses, a section separated from men. It doesn't matter if I see you naked and we get intimate with your x-rays, because I know your bones stayed whole. Mine splintered, healed with scars. And here's a poem about Guatemala. In a Guatemala village. I didn't write this when I was in the Peace Corps. I actually didn't write anything when I was in the Peace Corps, except bureaucracy paper stuff before I left my job. And this, so here we go. Here's a poem. I could go on, but we want to hear poetry, not me blabbing. In a Guatemala village, whitewash on adobe wall, silhouettes, the spikes in his black hair and olive skin. His shirt has white and green bars, resembling a World Cup's jersey. As he suspends his body over the dirt street, readying his right foot to kick the blue and yellow ball before it bounces without him thinking, because his parents do not have money, doctor, nor drug to kill the gangrene in the left leg. A metal crutch, his appendix, propels him to practice, acquiring skills he needs to play soccer with the pros. Casting the Saturday evening spell. This poem has one of my passions in it, extra virgin olive oil, and it's in the voice of a black iron cast skillet. Casting the Saturday evening spell. Turn the stove knob to medium. Click, 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 poof. Blue flame under me, waiting to physically and chemically change what will lie on my black iron. Pour first cold pressed extra virgin olive oil over my warm, smooth surface. Grab my handle with your firm right hand. Lift, trill my 8 pounds, gliding the oil in a circle. Crushed fresh basil and oregano, pine nuts, chopped garlic, broccoli, and onions to caramelize. Skinny dipping in the pond, dancing a love ritual with the edgy virgin, losing virginity, and the sizzling beat of her breaking bubbles. Nutty and sweet aroma rise above my circular wall into the wood spoon scoop the saute over pasta al dente with Parmesan, served with chilled crisp Chardonnay. Like a love potion that comes out of a witch's cauldron, this dish will seduce Kathy to fulfill the chef's desires. Okay, here's a poem about rats in Cambodia. There's an epigraph in this poem by a poet named Thomas Lux. It was actually the first line or 2 lines of his poem, of a poem he wrote. Unfortunately, Thomas Lux is no longer around, but I do recommend that you look up his poetry. He's all over the net and everything, Poetry Foundation. His last name is Lux, L-U-X. He's a great guy. Fastest of Cambodians, rats. Epigraph. Rats breeders gathered to primp and parade their best. Thomas Lux. A black rat waits in a doorway. Its black eyes wide, nose twitches, sniffs the wet market. Fear, the living creatures for sale emit blood and flesh. It scurries past a display of rats skinned, gutted, crack at the ribs, spread. Good country rats, healthy rats, rice rats, rats who eat whole grains, not garbage. Monsoons chase them to higher grounds. Farmers catch, sell, save their rice crops. Through the rural regions, brown rats bred in Tunisia, where harnesses hook to overhead cables, guide their 2 feet plus bodies through fields, landmines remain. Twitching noses sent TNT. Their 2.6 pounds do not detonate. After a day of detecting explosives, Magawa walks her colleagues' shoulders, nibbles peanuts, bananas, sometimes watermelon rinds. She keeps farmers and children limbs attached, not blown from the devices Americans left. A medal hangs around her neck. Appetizers for 2. Yes, this has 2 of my passions, which is extra virgin olive oil and garlic. I need a little drink, folks. Excuse me. Appetizer for 2. Extra virgin olive oil drizzled over homegrown garlic heads with severed tops. Roasting into the skin acquires light brown, and the bulbs soften like butter at room temperature. A vigorous, nutty aroma escapes from the inside of the clay pot. Just out of the brick oven, I offer a Sicilian loaf. Your hands crack the semolina crust. Sweetness releases in the puff of steam. My fingers squeeze the clove I picked for you. Golden pulp slides out of the sleeve, spreads on bread we share. Now, next poem is called Fate of a Sicilian Orange. Rosa in this poem is cousin in Sicily. That's how she cut an orange, which is the same way my mother, how she cut an orange and peeled an orange, and her name was Rose, and how her mother peeled an orange. So who knows how far down? Probably the Romans did it, or who knows? Long time. Fate of a Sicilian Orange. Rosa holds the fruit in her left hand, a knife in her right penetrates the peel, an inch below the top. The steel passes through the white rind, stops before it touches the pulp. Then the dagger etches a thin line circle. She turns the citrus upside down. The blade scores another ring and unites the southern and northern caps with longitude lines. She passes the globe and its continents to me. Now I'm going to read a haiku, which is only 3 lines. They don't have a title. Haiku. Mount the unicorn. Fly into your unconsciousness. Seal cracks traumas made. And here's a poem. Went to Southeast Asia, and this is about coming back. disturb circadian rhythm. Our plane leaves the ground 10 p.m. in Taiwan. Body squish between seat arms. Cruise at 500 miles per hour. Travel 13 hours. 1 a.m. in San Francisco. My head swirls clockwise. Hotel bed whirls counter. If I had a globe, I don't know if I should spin the world left or right. Can't decipher if we travel east to west or west to east. If we arrive the night before or the night after. Well, folks, this is going really fast. So I'm going to read one more poem and we could talk, and I can read other stuff if you want. But like I said, I don't want to bore you guys by reading so many. But here's a poem called Labyrinth. A labyrinth is not a maze. There is a labyrinth to a festival I go to each year, well, before the pandemic, which is at least 2 or 3 city blocks big. I mean, it's, or at least 1 city block, I might be exaggerating. And it's used in various religions as a walking meditation. Labyrinth. My guardian angel says, walk this path. Submit to the terms. I lift my bare foot and set it in a new position while shifting and twisting my torso, which brings me a little closer towards the center. Like a pecto, fleck, tur, in a tail breeze that chants Om and resonates within the grasses, trees, and me. I draw on Om. I surrender, because the curvy path has neither tricks nor decisions for me to make. I center, because neither my right nor my left brain dominates. I ascend, which enables me to see as I and the other ancients saw. I realize everyone's spiral circle never dies. My guardian angel has nothing more to say. So that was the list of poems I have. I had like 8 more last night, but I decided that I should be nice to you guys and kind of stop at 30 minutes of poetry. So guys, I'd be happy to take questions and we could talk and chat. We've got some time left. If you want me to do a little more reading, I can. Anything? Wave your hand, and Stephanie, well, happy to. Well, I guess you could turn, or Stephanie, I guess you got to need to turn the mics up. Okay.
They should be able to turn their mics on themselves. If you have any issues, go ahead and let me know.
Okay. Beth, you had a question of what I'm working on now?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Right now, I'm spending a lot of time revising. Not much though, because I don't want to get my publisher pissed off that I'm doing too much revising for him to do much work, but poems are never done. And I also just did a bespoken poem That is Midwest Writing Center has a list of poets that will write Valentine poems or whatever when somebody gives a prompt. I did one of those. I just took a workshop with Ryan Collins from the Midwest Writing Center, and I have a bunch of poems from the workshop that starting tomorrow probably, I will probably start reviewing those and start writing some new stuff. And Beth Roberts has a book coming out too, which is, she should be very proud. This book came from a contest she won. So.
Thank you for that.
What's that, John? Your Beanier? I don't know what that word is. You want to say it, John? Turn on your mic and talk.
I guess I fat fingered it. I was just curious what got you interested in poetry in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure. What I could tell you though is that throughout my college career, and I have a master's in agronomy. I'm a science guy. My undergraduate's biology and agricultural agronomy, and my master's was in agronomy. I retired as agronomist. All my professors in college told me I couldn't write, and most of my supervisors told me I couldn't write. And also I have a little speech impediment, which is hard to sometimes, they say I have a lazy tongue. So I was pretty much discouraged, but I always wanted to, and always seems like it was interesting to write. So what happened was I actually submitted a poem to a magazine, and it got published. And this is around 2010 or 2009. I got it, to be honest with you, the magazine says submit, we're easy. So I submitted, I got published. I go, oh, this is fun. This is no problem. I could do this all the time. I submitted again, I got published. And then I submitted again and they rejected me. And I was happy because, hey, they don't accept everything. But then I started taking workshops. There was a guy named McBride, and he was at a open mic, and he saw me and invited me to the Queen City poetry group, and they were very patient with me. I remember him turning to me and said, "Don't worry, one day you're going to get your voice." I didn't even know what the voice meant back then. But it's a challenge, and I think that's why I like it. And it feels good. It feels good that when someone accepts a poem and they didn't even know who you are, never met you, probably never talked to the person, but someone in Canada, anywhere in the world will accept your poem. That is a pretty good feel, and it feels like I was able to communicate. So, and it gets kind of addicting to do it too. And it's a challenging, and you keep learning. I go to many workshops, spend more money on workshops than anything else, and I keep trying to learn and keep trying to improve my voice, moving it maybe a little different directions. I'm hoping one of these days I'll have a book that'll come out that will be like equivalent to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's. You know, they have all the early stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then Sgt. Pepper's came and just changed the world on music. That's probably a big hope, but it's worth a try. It's worth something good to keep trying for.
Yeah, the Beatles probably drive me a little bit. I always liked your Labyrinth poem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Sal. It's Deborah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's. I'm happy to be joined up here to listen, see you. So I'm wondering right now, so much going on in the world. what's on your heart? What's kind of driving the words that are coming forth for your poetry?
Well, maybe we could go towards the direction of the poem, which will bring the words. I think what you're asking is maybe how do I get, where's the muse come from, which get the words?
Yes, I think that's well said.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Believe it or not, I might say one thing. A poet is no different than a scientist in regards to we are both observers. A artist observes and something could spike. Same thing as scientist observes and questions. Is why is something happening like this? Why is this happening? And so you start investigating. An observer, why are people acting like this? Or even nature, why is nature doing this? So a lot of that would just spark me to sit down and write. But also too, and I'll give you a little bit about my writing too, which is probably no different than anybody else. A lot of times the news, the PBS NewsHour, I don't watch Fox News or cable news. It's bad for you. I don't care what side you're on. But the PBS NewsHour, because they have both sides talking, and sometimes they even have interviews of artists. But when you're hearing debates and in-depth stuff, sometimes things click. And I have quite a few poems I got from watching the news. But when I sit down and try to write something new, which is pretty scary, because I have no idea where the direction's going. And I heard this from many people, it's not me that made this up, that they say that if you know where a direction's going in the poem before you start, it's doomed. Because nobody is going to be, if the author's not surprised, the reader will not be surprised. So you got to go there with the unknown. So I just kind of type and type and type, and sometimes maybe a line will click or a couple words will click, and sometimes I'm able to build from that, and then you get something going, and then you come to a fork. Should I go here or should I go there? And if you're lucky, after a few months and 40 drafts, 3 months, 40 drafts, you got something you think it will look like a poem, and then a couple years later, you go back to it and it's a poem. You make it into a poem. Maybe not that far apart in time, but that's how what gets me going at times. You have to, plus you got to sit down and write even though nothing's in your head. Again, somebody else said that if you're not there, the muse comes knocking on the door, the muse won't come back. You're going to miss it.
Thank you, Sal. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Anything else, folks?
So, Sal, who's your favorite poet? Who's the one that gives you inspiration?
My favorite poet, alive or dead?
Your pick.
Okay. I was going to read a poem by Carl Sandburg. He is one of my favorite poets because he writes for the masses. But there's a lot of craft and skill in it. Nobody's going to say not. So Carl Sandburg, Thomas Lux, he's been a great influence. Tim Addianzo, I don't know how to spell her last name, but Addonizo. Not only because I have a crush on her. Sorry, Kathy, but she's and her poetry is just excellent. And She also has some great books about how to write poetry too. Those are just a few. I see some poets that I really hear on this, that right here, that I'm happy, I'm very happy that they came. Very nice to see some other poets came. So I always like to have some poets think that I write good too, not just the masses. So I do try to work on my craft, believe it or not. But those are the 3 poets, but I could go on. There's a whole lot there. You could go to, there's very many websites where you get poems submitted to your inbox once each morning. And there's gonna be a lot of poets there they don't even know, you probably never hear of, but they're great poets too. Anything else, folks? We got a little time left. Yes, Linda.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for all I have learned from you at the writing workshop in Bonita Springs. And then also you mentioned that you have gone to workshops, but you didn't mention that you give workshops.
Yes.
And I have learned a lot by going to those as well. One of my favorites of all your poems is this one of Luigi Dell'Acquisto, your uncle. I just think it's a beautiful way to, present this man and his relationship with the earth. I like the part where it talks about he and Salvatore get their hands cracked by the wind and this ocean salt, and then get it soothed by the soil, working the soil with their hands. And another thing that stood out for me was how he never took commercial medicine, as you called it, but he lived to be 97, I think, when and then he was killed not by natural causes, but by the accident with the truck.
Yeah.
But who is, in that poem, who is Salvatore?
That's his brother. That was his brother.
Were you named after him?
No.
Oh.
We're Sicilian, and the first born male is named after the father's father, the grandfather, the father, and the second male is named after the mother's father, and his name was Salvatore.
Okay.
So that's where I got my name.
Okay.
My middle name is Eugene. He was my grandfather's brother's, basically stepbrother. They found him in church praying in Sicily, and they needed help on the farm, and they took him in. But we call him Uncle Joe, but his middle name was Eugene. So Salvatore is from my mom's father, and Eugene was from Uncle Joe.
Oh, thank you. Good seeing you, Sal.
Good seeing you, Linda.
Thank you.
Any other questions? We got about 8 minutes.
Now, I don't know a lot about poetry, but I appreciate how hard you work at your craft.
Thank you.
There's so many retired men your age that watch Netflix all day. I really appreciate you're very inspiring to me to keep going and keep learning.
Last night I didn't even turn on the TV. I was going over the list over and over again for what I will be reading today, and trying to keep it kind of light because we're going through a lot of shit now. And I was trying to make it so be kind of a fun thing. I mean, I got some sad poems in here that, but like waiting for a friend died, waiting for them to come pick him up for cremation and things of that nature. So, but I thought we should kind of keep it kind of like light and happy most of the time. Oh, I see a kitty cat. I sure miss kitty cats. Okay. Any other? Hi.
Yeah, Elaine from Newton, Iowa here. Hi,
Well, thank you for being here.
Central. You're welcome. I'm a lover of the poem, and so I'm just curious if you have a memory of where you were the first time you wrote a poem or tried to write a poem or were happy with a poem.
Wow.
If you're an agronomist, were you outdoors?
No, actually, I think one of the first poems that I have tried to write, John, you may remember this. Do you remember the name of it? Star Road, and Sand Road and something. It's a terrible poem. Yeah, I was riding my bike out in the Midwest in Western Illinois, and there's a Sand Road and Star Road. I think the intersection, I think those are the names of the roads. And the names just got me going. But I guess really to get back to your question, what really did is, like when I mentioned before, it wasn't until Sand Road and Star Crossing. I think that's what John just said it was called or something. It never went anywhere. And I should try to find it, but one thing though is that I always felt, even though when I had all my bosses told me I couldn't write, until one day I worked for the Army as a civilian. The lieutenant colonel just brought everybody into the room 5 minutes before lunch, and there was a chalkboard, and he said, "We have to write active voice." Active voice. Well, yes. I tried to write active voice, but then my supervisor kept changing to passive voice, which never makes sense. Once my bosses were told active voice, which they didn't know how to do, they couldn't touch my writing unless they disagreed with what I was saying, and that was their prerogative, which is good. But that kind of gave me more encouragement to write. And because bureaucracy writing and poetry writing and prose, it has to be active voice. The boy threw the ball, not the ball was thrown. So that really helped. And then when I got invited, maybe I have a bad low ego or something, but when I got invited to go to the Quincy City Poets, and every once in a while, I used to walk out of that group with a towel between my leg when I first started. Still do a lot of times. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's Mike here, and he writes fantastic stuff, and he goes to it. And sometimes you just hear some great stuff, and sometimes you thought you wrote the best thing in the world, and you walk out with a towel between your leg. But that gets you to go back and try again with that poem and try to figure out what you need tweaking, or is the directions awfully bad. So I guess I always wanted to try to write really good, even though I got shot down at work. But I just kept going at it, and then once in a while you get lucky, you get something published. It feels good. But it also feels good when you're finished something too, that you really felt that, yeah, I got some point across, I got some good imagery here. There's some other things in here that maybe people want to catch it, but they'll catch the imagery and kind of keep moving on. Did that answer your question, Elaine?
Yeah, but I mean, if that was, I liked it. If my question was a springboard for all those thoughts, I'm good with it.
It basically is. Sometimes you see something like, I went kayaking. I'm in Florida right now. A few weeks ago, and the red tide was really, really bad here. And I went kayaking, and I went through the mangroves, and all I saw were dead fish and vultures. I still haven't written that yet. I don't know, and that's the image in my mind I'm not going to forget. And who knows, I may start out with that imagery, and who knows what will happen. But you're right, it's a springboard. Free thought writing, you know, and then, like I said, you grab onto something. At least that's how I do it.
Yeah.
And I understand a lot of people do that way too.
Well, you know, you talk a lot about it sounds like you're somewhat angst or whatever, and I'm always fascinated where people draw the lines between what they perceive to be good poetry and not good poetry. You know, there seems to be lots of genres that one can embrace. It seems like there's a place for anyone if you have the impulse to write poetry, and so, you know, sometimes it seems like people come up with rules, and all of a sudden you realize there maybe aren't as many as you thought, and it just it either it resonates and you love it or it doesn't, I suppose. But
Well, yeah. As regarding what type of poems you like, there's a book to buy, and I just mentioned a book to buy on poetry, and I hope that my poems do have a lot of rules in it, but they're kind of hidden. A lot of internal, I hope a lot of internal rhyme, clear verbiage, maybe some weird syntax. Sometimes I do a little bit too much weird syntax. I don't see Candace on here. She could explain that. But if you want to start writing poetry, there's really a great book here. It's called The Idiot's Guide to Poetry Writing. And I am serious. It has, it'll get you started, it'll get you going, and it's a book you'll keep going back to, you know, for craft, and yeah, it just brings back the basics. That's one book I keep using, going back to. And then as you learn more about other poetry and read other poets, you can see how sometimes it fits with that and fits not. But yeah, but I'm kind of going off track. But one time I go to the Palm Beach Poetry Festival, and Thomas Lux was teaching there. And there's like 13 faculty members there. And I went to Tom after the workshop, or in between a workshop, and I said, Tom, I'm just getting so confused. He said, don't worry about it. Once you get home, you're going to get through all this stuff, and then you'll get back to your voice, and something will be lingering in there that will help enhance your voice. So it's a process, and it's a lot of work, but it's kind of fun because you're learning, and it's kind of fun to try to go beyond your voice that everybody expected, kind of like the analogy of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club's Band, and you kind of try to keep pushing for a little bit more. I hope that answered the question.
yeah, I'm always just fascinated by where poets see themselves in relation to the greater craft, or the various kind of subgenres and forms, and because there's so much to explore and enjoy.
Oh yeah.
At least from what I could tell.
Yeah, and I learned, and other people said that, let's say you want to write a poem about your father. Well, they said, well, that's a big topic, but go and focus on one specific event, and then you start going from there. Then things will evolve, and you could find something. But like I said, you keep learning, and there's different genres, and I'm just trying to work on poetry, and we're planning to do some essay work. People who can write poetry and prose, I envy them. I just have no idea how to keep narrative and dialogue together. So, but there's people that do it. Anything else, folks? Anybody else?
I don't know.
Hello. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi. Hi. There, I'm retired now, so maybe we'll catch up one of these times.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, they'll be in the spring unless you come down here.
Oh, there. Okay. Well, there. I just got a lot of things I gotta finish doing, but there. I see that you're still at it, and I still have a niche for storytelling. I still don't understand this poetry stuff, so there. You have to help me figure out how to get published. There. I know I got some good stories.
Well,
Yes.
I could tell you more how to get rejected. So
Yeah, we don't want that. We want. Yeah.
it
I
happens.
got into editorials a little bit, and I got published there. But yeah, I need to get back into some structure and get it going again. It's been put on hold too long.
Good. Well, you're retired now, and if you get away from your grandkids, then you can have.
They're the reason I can write stories. There, they give me a lot of material. Well, it was nice to see you.
It's nice to see you. Thank you for coming, Bonnie. I really appreciate it. Anybody else? Well, we did put our whole hour in. Hold on. I mean, thank you for finishing, and I'll keep my open for your next things with Ice Cube Press. So thank you. If you're interested in these books, I don't see them still on here, but you could go to Ice Cube Press. I think he has 2 of these books here. Or you could email me, and I'll give you my email address. And then make sure you get the book signed. It is red wine and garlic at yahoo.com. So red wine and garlic. I like drinking red wine, and I like garlic. This cover here is, there we are, is a jar of fermenting garlic, and I grow about 350 heads of garlic a year, and I ferment about 7 to 8 quarts, and I eat them all.